The story is dry. All we've got are pieces. We can't seem to figure out what the puzzle is supposed to look like.
Forget the myths the media's created about the White House. The truth is, these are not very bright guys, and things got out of hand.
Hunt's come in from the cold. Supposedly he's got a lawyer with $25,000 in a brown paper bag.
Follow the money.
What do you mean? Where?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
But you could tell me
No, I have to do this my way. You tell me what you know, and I'll confirm. I'll keep you in the right direction if I can, but that's all. Just follow the money.
Less than 1% of the world's population owns almost half of the world's wealth. Meanwhile, nearly 3/4 of adults globally own less than $10,000 each. According to the new report by Credit Suisse, the middle classes have suffered while the rich have gotten richer. And while the number of people worth over $100,000 has decreased for the first time since the financial crisis, the percent of wealth they own grows higher each year, and inequality grows with it. To illustrate the rapidly rising levels of wealth inequality, the report features what it calls the wealth pyramid. Those at the top are the 1%ers who own 45.2% of the world's wealth. In the middle are those worth between $10,000 and $100,000 who comprise 21% of the global population and possess roughly 12.5% of the world's wealth. Those at the bottom are the 71% of the global population who altogether account for only 3% of wealth worldwide. The investment bank CEO said, "Middle-class wealth has grown at a slower pace than wealth at the top end. This has reversed the pre-crisis trend, which saw the share of middle-class wealth remaining fairly stable over time." And notably, while the US dominates the world with the highest number of millionaires, China now has the world's largest middle class.
After the international charity Oxfam released a report on the growing gulf between the world's richest and poorest. It's titled, quote, "An Economy for the 1%." And it concludes that the wealthiest 62 people on the planet own as much as the poorest half of the world's population combined. It also found that those 3.6 billion people have become 41% poorer since 2011.
About today as Oxfam is a more structural problem that allows this kind of wealth inequality to exist. What we found in our report is that this sort of inequality is increasingly hardwired into our economies. It's the way that we run things now. We have vast income inequality, but that also cuts across huge gender inequalities. Political leaders, business leaders, billionaires themselves are waking up to the fact that this is not good news for anybody. It undermines our economies, and it undermines our societies.
You put your savings in the bank, We like to think that the bank uses this money to give loans to businesses, but this means that the money never grows because it only changes hands. And yet the fact is that in the Netherlands alone, this amount increases by 30 billion euros each year. How is the money created? The banks create it. Example, you're an entrepreneur with a good plan, but with no money. You want the bank to give you a 100,000 euro loan. What does the bank do? It doesn't wait for a customer to arrive at the back door and hand over a bag of money to put in a savings account. Instead, the bank creates money by recording a new credit worth 100,000 euros in your name, money that wasn't there before. It also records a 100,000 euro debt by simply entering a couple of numbers into the computer. That's all it takes to create new money. But is it real money? It's only a couple of figures typed into a bank computer, isn't it? Yes, it's money all right. Most money we have is nothing more than a couple of figures existing only in bank computers. We carry some inside our purses, but most money is electronic. You can use loan money to pay the bill or spend it at a supermarket. It's used for buying and selling things. It circulates in the economy. This money is very real. That's how banks create money, by giving out loans. In a sense, money is the same as debt. If we were to pay off all debts, there'd be very little money left. Since 2000, the banks have created more money than ever before, most of it in the form of mortgage debts. This is what links the creation of money to the debt crisis. When it comes to mortgage debts, the Netherlands are worldwide #1. It's one of the reasons why so much new money was created. In 1982, approximately 100 billion euros circulated. Today, it's 800 billion.
The gap between the very richest and the rest of us is getting bigger. Why? A common belief is that it's good for us all if a small group of people earn an enormous amount of money. The theory is that their wealth trickles down to the rest of us. But this is a myth. In reality, money is sucked up from all of us into the pockets of a very small group of people. How does this happen? One reason is the way that money is created. Right now, almost all of the money in our economy is created by banks when they make loans. Now, most people assume that when banks make loans, they're lending out someone else's savings. But they're not. Instead, when somebody takes out a loan, banks create new money electronically by typing numbers into their account. 97% of all the money in our economy is created in this way, as people take out loans from banks. The more loans people take, the more debt there is, and the more money there is. The shocking fact is, if nobody went into debt, there would be almost no money in the economy. Our economy depends on the electronic money created by banks. But because the money is created when people borrow, someone, somewhere, has to pay interest on every pound created. In effect, we are renting the money we need to run our economy from the banks. This means that in the UK alone, together we pay the banks £192 million in interest every single day. And because the debt is held mostly by the bottom 90% and wealth mostly by the top 10%, paying this interest transfers money from the bottom 90% of the population to the very top 10%. It sucks wealth and income from the rest of us up to the very lucky few. So as long as we have to rent the money we use from the banks that create it, we'll have to keep paying this huge interest bill, and the gap between the richest and the rest of us will keep increasing. But there are ways to create money that don't depend on us all going into debt to the banks. We want to see money created by a public body and spent into the economy, so that we don't have to borrow all the money we need from the banks. This would lead to less debt and stop the gap between the richest and the rest of us getting even bigger.